This is Davor from Derokki, and in this video we're going to talk about text alignment and text direction on RTL. And so let's just get right into Webflow. We're going to see how texts behave based on the directionality of a website. And so we're back here. Remember, we showed different ways of aligning elements, and how most of the Webflow CSS panel was static. And so let's now get into the text, and what I'll do is I'll build a box and we'll call it box. I'll make it a flex box because I want to have a bit of let's see, I want to have a bit of a space between elements. Let's do this because I want to add in a few text elements here, and we want to see how within this box where we change the direction the text behave. And so let's maybe also do a bit of a less width, and let's give it a border just so we know what's happening, like this. Maybe let's make it a blue border just for fun. Okay, and so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add in some text, and also let's give the box a bit of padding like this. Text block. Okay, good. So let's get started. This is a normal box which is running normally. It's all left to right now. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in some classes. Okay, this is going to be text align left, and this basically applies this style from the CSS panel. So I'll write this down here as well. Text align left dot text align left. Let's duplicate this. This is going to be dot text align center. It's going to be text align right. Okay. And text align right. Okay. Like this. And so what you will see now is there we go. Text align right has the right alignment based on CSS panel of Webflow. Same with center, and same with text align left. So this box right now, it's direction-ltr, right? So let's say we switch it around and we go to Arabic, right? Let's say this is the English version and we have the text that go from left to right. Now we want to switch it around. If I get in and I've set it to direction, not text direction, but dir-attr RTL, you can see a few things happen. The first thing is that the default text block has changed the direction. It's not going from left to right, but it's now going from right to left. Whereas the Webflow CSS values, those ones here that we applied, the text alignment left, it still stays on the left and the right stays on the right. Whereas it should usually switch around. If you have like an English text and now it should be Arabic, you want it to switch around usually. So, but you also see one thing, which is that the dot is now actually coming from the right side. So the dot has switched the side, which is a very interesting thing. But let's start with this. Why has this flipped around and this hasn't? Because the thing is, with a normal text block that doesn't have an attribute aligned, that doesn't have a CSS value applied, not an attribute. You can see how here we have the align text being blue, whereas on the text block it's not blue, but it still says that it's aligned to the left, which is not true. It's actually aligned to the right. But what actually Webflow means to say is that this text is aligned to the start. And so if you go to the MDN web docs again, you can see that text alignment has lots of different values. It doesn't just have left, right, and center. It also has start and end. So the start value actually aligns the text at the start of the document direction. And that is what the default text will always do automatically. Remember here where we added a normal text in, that automatically flips because the text aligns start. Okay? And so what I'll do now is I'll get rid of this again. you'll see what this means. I'm gonna add a class. This is part of the RTLflow Styleguide. You can add a class called text-align-start. We're gonna have another class which is gonna be text-align-end. Text-align-end. Okay. So now if we do that thing again, if we switch the direction to RTL of the box, you see what happens? So while the text align left and right, they stay on the left and on the right, text align start actually comes from the start of the document, and text align end aligns to the end of the document, right? The end of the layout, basically. And so what we have to understand when we build websites with text is that we typically don't use text align left. We don't use the CSS panel, because what would happen if we align the text to the left on the English version of the website and then we go to the Arabic version, the text would still align to the left. However, and this is what you see here, is that the dot is actually on the other side. And so this is typical behavior, because if I write in an RTL box, if I write this again, you will see this now. So it now assumes, or actually let's go here. It now assumes that I'm writing in a right to left language, because I've applied the RTL attribute on the box, right? So if I write, you'll see what happens. It has this little like weird behavior, you know, where like the line is kind of on the left and then switches to the right. And so the text alignment is really just that. It just aligns the text. It doesn't have an impact on the direction of the text, right? So the direction of the text will still depend on the direction attribute, mostly. And this is where the text direction CSS comes in, okay? And so direction actually is a CSS property, so it's different from the direction attribute. Okay, the dir attribute is what we set on the HTML tag. However, if you want to have a different CSS direction within the document, in few circumstances where you want to use it is, for example, for text, right? And so here's an example of like doing it on a box, which I would usually do with the attribute. But what you do is you can go in and you can say, I want the text to be, let's say, English all the time. And so what you would do is you would go in, right? So this is now like the Arabic version, right? So assume that this box has switched alignment. We're now on the Arabic version, but on the Arabic side, I want to have an English text. And so what I would do is I would go in here. I would have the text alignment stay on the left, but I would also add text-direction-ltr. And you can now see that the text, see, now it's actually running left to right. So if I write here again, text align left, it's going proper, whereas here it's doing it's going the other way around actually. And so that's where text direction is, and you can see it down here. It's this one here, okay? So and actually, if we get rid of this, I'll actually do a proper separate example of a text direction. Oops, I think I removed it. 1 second. There we go. So it's going to be text direction LTR. So I'm going to actually add the class for this. And if we go in here, and we can also do text direction RTL, text direction RTL, text direction RTL, you will now see that actually text direction LTR sets the text to go from left to right, including the direction. So the dot is at the beginning. For text direction RTL, the direction goes from right to left, and the dot is on the right side. So it might be a bit confusing, but essentially what you need to know is most of the time what you will do is you will try to align text to the start. So you want to use the text align start class, or ideally just do not touch the panel, right? Like if I set a CSS value in the Webflow panel, then it will apply to the children element, you know, throughout the whole thing. So if I set this to left, you can see how the block actually aligns to the left, and this as well. And so to reset that, you would have to actually go down here and add a custom property, okay? And so let's do that actually, so you can see it, because text align start is actually a property down here. See this? And so let's say we have a text block. Let's say we do a simple example where we have a block, and I want this block. Yeah, this is the text, okay? This is an example text. Example text. I want this block of text to be aligned to the left, or aligned to the start. So what I would do is I would go in and I would set it to text align start. And if we go to the tablet panel, I want it to align to the center. So I would go in here and I would actually change it right here. And then maybe on mobile, I want this to be aligned to the left again. Or actually to the start. So if you want to have different text styles, including start and center, then you want to use the custom properties. Because if I now switch this to Arabic, you can now see that this thing is again, it's aligned to the start, and then it goes back to the center, and then it's again on the right, or at the start of the document. And that's what you want, because if you use the CSS panel, then you can't reset it. Right, so example, I set this to left, and now I go here to center, reset to center, and then I want to align it again. If I want to align it back to the left, but to be on the right on RTL, I can't use this, right? Because this will stay, you know, I have this, and then if I set the box to RTL, which it is right now, as you can see, it still stays there, okay? And so that's kind of how the text behaves. What I will show you as well is, of course, you can also, you don't have to set the direction with the attribute here. You can do it with the attribute, but we can also do it with CSS direction, like this. So this essentially does the same thing, but it's not recommended. There's accessibility concerns around this, and also for the style guide to work 100%, just use the attribute, okay? But if you have a specific text element, so say this is supposed to be English text, even on Arabic, then I want this to align to the start. Then I want to align this to the start. So at text align start, we can do it in the property. So if this is a class called example text, we can do it down here, text align start, and we can say align like this, you know. And if I now switch it around back to Arabic, it stays in English text, and that's where we apply the CSS direction. We only apply it on text that we want to have a fixed direction. But we don't have to do it like this. We can also just say, hey, let's use the classes which I've created, text line start, and then text direction LTR. If we now flip this around, we can do it again like this, but I don't recommend it on anything except text. So we don't use this. We go to settings and we set the direction attribute to be RTL, and you can see it's text lines to the left. So long story short, play around with this. When you text align, then you use the text align start, which is the default value for texts. So default text has a value of text align start, which in the panel is basically shown as being left, but it's not true, right? So if you have this kind of if it looks like this, if the aligned text doesn't have an orange or a blue color, this means the text is aligned to the start, which is what we want to use most of the time. And you also have the text-direction-ltr and RTL properties which you can use, and I recommend you to use it only on text. Right. And so, yeah, that's true. So, and of course, the direction attribute is what you want to use to set direction, except on text. If you want the text to be left to right all the time, then use the CSS direction. So that is it. It's actually a bit easier than you would think. It's not that complicated. And so in the next lesson, we're going to talk about paddings and margins. I'll talk about paddings and margins, and you'll see how you can create bidirectional spacing. So you can basically flip around padding and margin on RTL. So see you in that next lesson.